And one of the biggest challenges in homeschooling, especially as you move to the high school years, is choosing curriculum. I mean, it's always a little bit of a hassle because there's so many things going on. And in the early years, we kind of get excited about it because it's kind of fun to look at all the curriculums and everything that's out there. But as the stakes get bigger, maybe thinking about college or career or what the alternatives are, and are you doing all the right things? So the curriculum gets a little more weighty of a decision. So how do you choose this in high school? This is the question that we're always asking, and that we get a lot of feedback on from moms all over the world about how do you pick the right curriculum, especially in math, but a lot of times philosophically, just how do you pick the right curriculum? Especially one of the things that many parents are wanting to do is we don't want to rule out college, even though Johnny or Susie may not want to go to college. We don't want to rule it out. We want to prepare our son or daughter for all the possibilities. So, and also there's more of a tendency now to I want my son or daughter to be more prepared for business, for doing their own thing. So that's becoming um, less college, more let's just go in and do something and take control of our lives because that's how what homeschooling was about. So as a curriculum, you need to make some choices there. So first and foremost, the truth about curriculum and is there's not really a right or wrong choice. There's no one size fits all. And this is where, peer pressure is powerful, and we see people using things on social media that are great, that they feel are great. People talk really powerfully and emotionally about different programs that they use, sometimes very authoritative about which programs are better. Uh, so, but it's comparing apples and oranges. Your child is not like my child. Your path is not like my path. So you have to choose a curriculum that fits not only the path that you're going on, but also a curriculum that fits in with what your student needs, and what the parent needs. But the students, especially, we will have people that just find that they fall in love with certain curriculum because their students did really well with it, and of course, other students just despise it. So it has to be something that that works for you. So just you got to take the pressure off when you see people using something and you buy it. We all have done this, right? We get great reviews from somebody, we buy it, and it just isn't working for us. And so sometimes the first thing to do is reach out to the company, reach out to the curriculum provider, and find out, is there something you can do? Well, that's a great first step. But if it just doesn't click, no matter what you do, maybe you just are using the wrong tool, right? It's like trying to use, trying to, cut up meat in the kitchen with a butter knife. It's a tool. It will do the job. And for some people, maybe that's what they need, but probably I need a sharper knife. So don't get too caught up in what other people are saying about some curriculum being super or negative, and looking at reviews. I mean, that's helpful as a starting point, but that's really all you're going to get. You have to look around at what the options are, and you get to pick. You are in charge of your curriculum. So here's a couple of things that we started looking for in our curriculum with our kids. And we changed a lot. We paid attention. We did all the things I just said not to do. We paid attention to peer pressure. We paid attention to what other people were doing. The fear factor gets caught in. You're really scared because are we behind? And I teach at a university. I know what we look for in the university if that's the game plan, and you still feel the pressure, right? Even though there's much of that, we've had two kids go through already, and then we were doing the other two, and so we understood the game, but the peer pressure is real, right? And self-doubt is just there so much. So we kind of got three things that we look for from, just general wisdom from a lot of other people. And first of all is content that teaches thinking, not just test taking. And a lot of content, that's what they're doing. They're doing, and this is not true of homeschool only. It's true of a lot of material out there. But the homeschool world is sometimes a little bit worse. We have a tendency to water down because we want our students to do well. Well, I have lots of opinions on that. I don't think it's a right plan. You want real understanding and not test taking. Now, the only exception is if you are preparing for ACT or SAT or something, well, then the whole goal is to take a test. So you want test taking strategy and those kind of things. But when you're taking literature or biology or math or whatever your subject may be, you want your students to understand it. Uh, Big words, saying big words, knowing big vocabulary, all that sounds impressive, but it doesn't mean they understand it. Being able to work 100 problems a day in math doesn't mean they understand it, even if they got them all right. They could be using cookbook formula. Do they understand what they're doing? That's so much more impactful, so much more important, and they are going to remember that a lot more than when you see this kind of thing, do steps one, two, and three that are on page 57 of the book. That's the model that we use a lot of times. But we want thinking, we want critical thinking, we want them to be able to reason through and explain their thinking in the best way possible. So content that teaches thinking, not just test taking. The second thing that we started looking for is support for independent learning. And when you say independent learning, most of us have kids that one child does not learn and operate in the same model that others do. We have four kids and they couldn't be, you're thinking, could they be uh, can they all be, 180 degrees of separation? It seems like it. They're all just wildly different. There are things they have in common, but how they learned, what they liked doing, how they liked learning, was all really different. It's a struggle. And I'm guessing, just people even have that 7 and 8 kids that there's not really they're not, even though there's some similarities, you're probably not all alike. So you're constantly adjusting programs. Or not, you're constantly adjusting your style, whether you're adjusting the curriculum or not. But you want a curriculum that supports independent learning, especially in high school. I mean, come on, what we're teaching is independence. We're teaching if they're going to go to college, mom and dad aren't going to be there to support them, and they're not going to get a lot of support from the college. I don't care what they tell you. They are pretty much on their own learners. You may have great instructors, but there's going to be times you don't, and you have to figure it out, whether that's through friend groups, study groups, learning on your own, whatever it is. That's independent. That's also thinking. They have to be able to work on their own. Now, you may choose not to do some of that. We have lots of parents who choose to sit side by side with their students doing it, and they're both sort of learning. Many moms will say, "I'm trying to learn what I didn't get a chance to, or I thought wasn't important then. I want to learn it now." So, but you want the program to support independent learning. That's where videos can be really helpful to many people. Or video with a textbook where they can take a test. And so we do literally have lots of parents who will just say, "Here's all the curriculum, here's all the material you've bought. Go ahead, go do it." And just report back to me on the test. There may be some accountability they build in. That's up to how you do it. But the student gets to learn independently. The student asks questions to us independently. And again, that's not always the case. And oftentimes the younger grades, maybe it's the mom sending us questions and talking to us. But for the most part, you want to groom them for independence. That's what we're trying to do. Independent learning. Video-based instruction is really great for that, even though the truth is most are not going to watch all the videos. We know this, and this is not true of math. This is true across the spectrum of all video content out there. Most of us don't watch all the videos, and so if you have an entire video series on literature or math or whatever it is, Most of it will not be watched by one particular student. Now, it all might be watched collectively. And of course, there are some students who watch every part of it. But students learn to search through material they need. How do I need to go to this video. I need to go where they explain this part. And in our culture, that's much more popular. But having the student get the ability to get their hands on the content, to go do what they need to do, to figure out and think their way through what they need to do, that's powerful. Video that's right there on hand is a great tool. That's one of the downsides of in-class teaching. That is, as much as we all love that, faculty members at universities, teachers in schools, we love in-class teaching, the interaction. A lot of students say they love it. But the problem is you spend an hour and you may only have needed 15 minutes, or you may have needed 5 minutes, or maybe that whole hour was just, you didn't need any of that. You could have gotten that in a few minutes from the book. But next time you're going to need 20 minutes of it. And so to be able to learn to find what you need when you need it, that's independent learning, right? That's how we all do things. That's why tools like the web and now AI are such powerful tools. So that's of the three things, that's the content that teaches uh, thinking and not just test taking and that encourages independent learning are two of them. The third one is preparation for life after graduation. We're in high school now, and they're going to graduate, and they're eventually going to have some life on their own where we are not involved in everything in their life. So practical skills, uh, skills that they can use. Because let's face it, most of our kids are not going to be sitting here doing dissecting of frogs or understanding, all of the biological names and the family trees, if you will, of biology, as well as doing a whole bunch of detailed mathematics. But we want them to understand the concept of biology. We want them to understand, why it's important. We want them to understand, the basic of critical thinking and math. In literature, they're not going to remember everything they read, but will they remember key concepts? That's exactly the kind of thing that we want to have happen. Um, and so this is what we are trying to do with a lot of our courses. Most of what you see in our algebra through calculus mathematics is teaching thinking, teaching them to understand. And there's some great programs out there. We think ours is one of them, but there's a lot of stuff that does not teach that way, that teaches what we would call cookbook mathematics. It's not really preparing them, except for filling out a piece of paper and taking a test. That's not teaching them to think. So preparation for graduation, life after graduation might also be thinking about what are they going to be doing. Since most will not be doing detailed literature, detailed biology, detailed mathematics. I mean, some will, but those that will be building on those skills, however they do it, right? They're going to be going to college or whatever they do. They're going to be building on those skills so they can do that as a profession. There's probably not enough as a profession to do any of those in high school. But most are going to be engaged in business of some sort, right? Most are going to be working for or owning their own business. And as that, they're transacting money, they are serving other people. They're looking at products and services and how can they sell them? How can they serve them? How can they provide structure for the company that's doing that? This is what we call business, and we look at business kind of in a microcosm as an entrepreneurship, which is how business works. It's actually how all careers work. So to do that, we have a course also in entrepreneurship. I'm just going to show you really quick on a share screen. Some of the things that we would look for is uh, so you see in high school, at least in the math, you're going to see algebra through through calculus here. You will also see we have a well, calculus is on further on the screen. Um, so algebra, geometry, and algebra 2 or trig is where most people get. Some will get to calculus. That's not on my screen right now. Career planning, a course that we help them to think through what is it they're going to be doing, how money works. This is kind of combination of Dave Ramsey meets Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and in entrepreneurship, thinking through how does business work. Even if they're not starting a business, thinking through how business works is what you want to do. When you're talking about the sciences, it's some basic biology and chemistry and physics. And so this is the kind of thing we want them to know. We want them to, again, not be experts in all of these things, but we want them to be exposed to all of these things. And we want them to be able to think critically. So when they are in conversation years and years later, um, that they would know what happens. And I'll give you a very quick example. So we were in a Bible study group with the team that I lead, and a conversation came up about the details weren't mentioned in the details, but they were talking about from Dante's Inferno. And so they never mentioned the name. And so on the way home, we were doing, and one of my sons was with me, and he starts talking about that was all from Dante's Inferno. And just recognizing that this is what these people are talking about collectively, it made it make a lot more sense to everybody else that was in there with us. So that's learning, that's understanding, that's being able to apply things in conversation. So these are the kind of things that we want you to think about. What we think you should think about. These are the kind of things we think we were sharing and thinking about. I'm sorry, we were thinking about when we started developing that. Teaching them thinking, teaching them to learn independently, and for preparation for life after graduation. So again, but don't get too caught up in it. Many of you that are watching this video, you're experts. You've done this many years, and you totally get what I'm saying. You've been there, and yet you probably get caught up in it, like we all do. Uh, Overthinking, overanalyzing, and peer pressure. But especially if you're new and if you're entering the high school years, and you're thinking, well, it's got to be different. The pressure is on. Yes, it is. But while there are probably some blatantly wrong answers, everything is fixable. Even if you make wrong choices, um, it's easily fixable. And the biggest thing is your student has got to engage with it. It can be the best material in the world. It can be written, created, everything the best in the world. But if your student doesn't engage with it, it just sits there and it's not doing them any good. So that's experimentation because we're dealing with people, not machines, and you find the best thing that fits you and your family. If we can help, please let us know and we'll help you talk through or help you think through any of these decisions. Thank you.